Broadway Queen. Ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted he's on the show. I'm genuinely a fan of this guy. It's Mr. Gareth Gates, ladies and gentlemen. Great to have you here. It's great to be here. Thank you for coming on. Oh, you know what, I'm thrilled you're here because when you were first on Pop Idol, I very much liked you. And then, of course, one of the things, I suppose, that marked you out, obviously you were talented, you're a good-looking young guy, you had a good voice, but your stutter or your stammer, I'm not sure what the correct term for it is, marked you out there. And I guess that's one of the reasons why you couldn't come on shows like this. And you now seem to have got over that completely. So what's happened? How's that been dealt with?
I'm part of a speech therapy program called the Maguire program, and it was very hard for me personally, and no one's ever been able to relate Gareth Gates, a singer, with the personality, because there's been a personality, but no one's ever been able to see that, and so there was always that void there, and so I decided to join this program, and it's really helped me. I'm now an instructor on the course.
But it's incredible because you have no hint of a stutter now, and it was really pretty debilitating, wasn't it? It was a big barrier for you, wasn't it?
It was really hard. I think growing up in school with the stammer, you know what kids are like. Any sign of anything wrong with anybody, they really sort of capitalise on that.
Tell me about it. I've been through the same thing, not quite as bad.
I have a speech impediment, you have a speech impediment.
What, all the time at school? Yeah. What's the toss, they called me? I don't know where the second part came from. But you know what, here's the weird thing. I don't think we know that much about stammering and stuttering, probably because the people who have it can't get through a sentence to tell us, perhaps.
Exactly.
But we don't know. I always assumed it was a psychological problem, but it isn't a psychological problem, is it? It's a physical thing more often than not. Is that correct?
A stammer is made up of about 10% physical, not being able to get the words out, and 90% psychological. So it's the build-up of fear or the build-up of negative associations, experiences in the past. Like for instance, it might have started in the classroom where I'd have said maybe a word wrong, and a fellow classmate said, "Wait a minute, you've just said that wrong." And so the next time you go and say that word, you're like, "Last time I said that, it was wrong," and it snowballs to other words and other situations. And so, it was very difficult. My mum and dad, bless them, they tried to,
beat it out of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I believe is the first procedural step, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Sticks, electric shocks, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and
if that fails...
It obviously didn't work.
But no, it must be tough for those around you as well, I guess, especially mums and dads who don't want to see their kids, going through this at school. It must be a pretty tough thing to witness for them as well as for you to go through.
As a stammerer, you go through certain stages of using different tricks to try and get words out. And at one point, I was making this sort of noise. It was like a...
so that was to help you build up to the word.
Yeah, so it was a trick. So if I wanted to say my name...
surprise the word.
Exactly. So I'd go, Gareth. And Mum and Dad said I sounded a bit like Skippy the bush kangaroo.
Well, that's sympathetic of them.
Yeah. And, my Mum and Dad tried to make sort of light heart of the situation, just so I wouldn't get hung up on it.
That's understandable.
And, but it was very funny. They said the local theatre is staging a production of Skippy the bush kangaroo, and you sound like Skippy the bush kangaroo. Why didn't you audition? I was like, and I was very young. Oh, great, yeah. So I said, well, you have to practice the sound. So I'd be like, very good. But if you're auditioning, you have to do the moves as well. So I said, well, what's the move? So they showed me, and it was like. So, well, you have to do the moves and the sound together. Okay, so. And I was the prize idiot every time family came round. Gareth, why do you get up and do your Skippy the bush kangaroo? The audition never came.
What a lovely family story.
Well, I said to Mum and Dad, I will get you back for this.
And now you've exposed them live on TV.
National television. Now, my Mum and Dad are the best people in the world. They just try to make light out of the situation, and I'm going to get my bottom smacked when I get home, I think.
Is that part of the therapy, the whole body?
Say your name! Say your name!
Gareth! Here's the weird thing, though. in a way, and I don't know to what extent, but in a way, having that particular impediment, having that stutter on Pop Idol, made you more memorable to people. You were not just another, you know, you had a great voice, and you're very good looking. You've got pop star looks, which is obviously something which is a bonus. And you know, well, I'm sure I'm not the only one who was, and although I think Will Young is a very talented guy, but I assumed you were going to walk it. It seemed to me like you were easily going to win that competition.
I did.
You did as well. It seemed to be, what happened, do you think? Why did Will Young and you didn't? I know it's not necessarily something that you have control of, but you were surprised.
Will's a great guy, and I'm sure you've met him. He's a fantastic guy. He has an amazing voice. If I'd have lost out to the cheeky girls, I'd have questioned it, but you know, Will is the nicest guy you've met, and you know, he has a fantastic voice, and I think right from day one he's sort of known what sort of artist he wants to become and what sort of records he wants to make, whereas myself, I was only 17, I didn't know what sort of artist I wanted to you know, ultimately become.
So the stuff you did straight after Pop Idol, which was very successful, was that the kind of music you would have chosen for yourself, and is that the kind of music you want to continue making, or was it not?
If I'm honest, no. It was very much the label saying, there you go, Gareth, there's your next single.
That will sell. We know people will buy you.
And you know what, I don't regret that, because as I said, I didn't know what sort of artist and what sort of records I wanted to make, and so I allowed them to craft and mold me into the artist that they wanted to market, and it worked at the time. You know, a lot of success. It was fantastic.
Well, when you had your number one, how old were you when you went to number one?
17.
17.
I think I'm in the Guinness Book of Records for the...
And that was for... Oh, my Lord, hunger for... That's one of my karaoke's, that one.
I'll stick to the singing, you stick to the speaking.
Cough. That was no perfect.
No,
that wasn't bad, was it? So what are you doing now then? Because before I show what you're up to, the stutter's gone then. Is there? Do you worry that it would recur, that it will come back? Do you have to do anything to keep it away? What goes on?
That's the thing. The stutter hasn't gone. The Maguire program isn't a cure. It teaches you techniques that you can use, and we see speaking as a sport, and where athletes are getting good at the sport of speaking, and so you know, the moment you don't start to do warm-ups and the exercises you're supposed to do, that's when you get a bit rusty.
So you do practice and stuff. What, you practice words, or you practice the ability to talk? What do you do?
The Maguire program is based upon a breathing technique, and so you have to get up on a morning, 15 minutes, you know, do a good sort of breathing warm-up.
So you do lots of breathing exercises?
Yeah, I mean, these days I've become a little bit complacent. I think you achieve a certain level of fluency, and then you think, I've got it, I've done it, when really, you know, you haven't. And the moment you become complacent, that's when you start to have troubles.
But I'm amazed at how confident you're here, because my worry was, genuinely was the worry, Gareth. I thought, what if he comes on the show and it's not a pleasant experience for you, and there's an audience here, and me grinning and gurning at your face and saying silly things, and what if we put you back, you know, and you leave here with the stutter again? I'd have felt awful about that. But it would have been funny as well, obviously, but I would have felt awful. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad it hasn't happened, and fingers crossed we'll make it to the end.
Hopefully, yeah.
But is there a danger that something could trigger it off like that, do you think?
I'll be totally honest, I was very, very nervous about this interview. This is the first ever interview that I've really given on a chat show like this. Only because you guys demand to have the first interview.
Yeah, we said we don't want you going anywhere else, because we want to talk to you about this first, because if it does come back, you'd be no good to us.
Exactly.
I don't want you coming on here stuttering for half an hour. The amount of getting debates to get the end of the story, I'll be honest with you.
The amount of televisions we rejected to get on this show.
Don't go on about it, you're lucky to be here, boy. What's going on?
No, I am very happy to be here, and thank you for having me.
I know.